Hello and good morning again. It's Monday morning, my favorite day of the week. So excited to be here with you guys again. So today I thought we're going to talk about intense emotion and that sense of helplessness. You may have seen my Facebook post, or perhaps you're on my email list and you got that email about difficult emotions and a practice how to befriend different difficult emotions. And then actually I myself the whole week had really intense emotions, so I wanted to talk a little bit to that, because sometimes there's different reasons why intense emotions are coming up, and sometimes different practices work better in those scenarios. So for me, I always just like to divide it in kind of two separate things. One, I can have intense emotions because some past memories are coming up, some old wounds are kind of ruptured, that intensity. So a lot of it is from the past, yeah? But there's also really strong emotions that can come up from that, like they are things that are happen to me. They're emotions from me, from my personal life. And then there's other emotions that are more externally. They come from the things that we see outside in our world at the moment. There's so many things happening. Okay, so many injustices, so many cruelties. There's war, there is the climate crisis, the environment, there's animal cruelty, those kind of things. And I don't know about you, but they can really get me into some dark places. And I have a rule for that reason, and I don't, it's my own personal Facebook rule, by the way, but because I know that those things really trigger me. They get really an emotional storm within me. They trigger some sense of helplessness for me. And on Facebook, you usually get some pretty graphic pictures with that, especially like for animal cruelty and things like that. So I have that rule that, because I love my Facebook groups, and I love engaging with people, but I know when I go on Facebook, I do not scroll. And in my feed, if I go into the group, I sit down, I ground myself, I check in. How am I going? Is this a good time for me to go on Facebook? Is this how do I want to show up? What's the intention, and how long am I going to stay on for? And all this. But this week, I didn't do that. I scrolled, and then I got flooded with all this sadness out there. And like I said, this always gets me really deep. Makes me really sad, because it's, like I said, it triggers that helplessness. And at the core of PTSD and complex PTSD is that extreme sense of helplessness, okay, for all of us. And in a sense, because all these global things, they're so big, no one human being can solve that, or you need a magic wand. The way the situation is on this planet at the moment is a magic wand. There's no longer a human being, and that I have to be very mindful of that helplessness, because it gets me outside of my window of tolerance. Yeah, like Dan Siegel always talks about the window of tolerance. When we're within the window of tolerance, our brain can function at optimal levels. We can analyze, we can rationalize, we can memorize and learn and do those things, and we can connect with other people. That social engagement system. That's more Steve Porter's way. But when we go outside, when we go above that hyperarousal, that fight, flight and freeze mode, we can no longer think rationally, and we might make some rather drastic or impulsive decisions and do actions that we wouldn't normally do. And I was like, who else has done that? The next day you kind of wake up and say, oh my gosh, was that really me? Did I do that? It's so out of character, that you kind of surprise yourself in a way. I want to know, in the comments, let me know. I've done that so many times. Because I know I was outside of my window of tolerance. I reacted, I did some made impulsive decisions. But we can also go below in that hyper-aroused kind of state, in that numb or dissociative state, where we're disconnected. And not just disconnected from friends or people, but disconnected from ourselves. Okay? So, on the outside of that, when that helplessness is triggered, this is my cat, by the way, that background noise, when we're in those helpless, or for me, when I'm triggered in that helpless, I either go above or often I go below. I just get really, really sad, and it's hard for me to get moving. And while that practice that I emailed out to you guys, I still do that. I still acknowledge those emotions. I still allow myself to have that sadness. But I also know that me sitting here at home alone, kind of more isolating or not engaging so much, feeling that sadness isn't helping me, and it's not helping anyone else either. So I need to accept that as well, but I'm still allowing myself to have that emotion, because it is so sad, it is so cruel, it's unspeakable, some of the crimes and the things that happen to other people around that world, and that sadness. But I know that if I just wallow and just get stuck with feeling other people suffering, if that makes sense, because it's not actually happening to me right now, I'm feeling whether it's just that person suffering, or whether it is the animal cruelty, or when there's a tree being chopped down. I don't know if you have that too, but if I drive and there's in the local area, there's a beautiful old tree, and they just kind of chopped this down for some road works, and I was like, I had to pull over. I was crying. I get so emotional, or I can get so emotional about those things, but it doesn't really help, or it's not a solution if I get stuck there. Yeah. And what I find in those situations, when my helplessness is triggered, it's more helpful for me to be active, to do something. There's not a time when I want to make some big decision and go and start a new project or something, because I'm dysregulated, I'm not within the window of tolerance, but I want to do something little, something that gets me moving. Okay, for example, even if it's just going for a walk and take a bag with me and collect the rubbish that I see, and being really mindful, like doing this in a space of not being frustrated with people, but collecting rubbish, so the people that walk after me can really enjoy the beautiful walk. Because I know personally that, especially when it comes to rubbish, in my teenage years, I used to smoke, and the cigarette butts used to go everywhere, and I was littering myself. So I have some compassion for the people, and I hope perhaps, maybe they see me picking it up, and then they might kind of change. But something like that, if I get myself moving, if I get this body up and moving, that helps me. Because if you're hyper aroused and you have too much adrenaline and cortisol going through your body, movement can help you use up some of this. And the flip side, if you're more hyper aroused, the movement can help you wake up your body again. Because when we're in that immobilized state, in that hyper aroused state, it feels really hard to come up with the energy to go for a walk, because our metabolism has slowed down so much. We feel so fatigued or lethargic, and so going for a walk can help us kind of tell the body, come on, wake up, speed up that metabolism. It's daytime kind of thing. I don't know if you have experienced it. If you often fall down in that hyper aroused state, that's certainly the case for me. But so when I'm in that helplessness, in that helpless state, I try to do those little actions around my house. So I'm active. It gives me a sense of I am contributing. I can do something. I can, even if it's the minutest little thing, it's a tiny little speck. It makes no difference on the global thing. You can't actually see it, but it's better than nothing. Something is better than nothing. That little action you contributed, and it helps you getting back in that window of tolerance, so I can make better decisions, and then I can choose, okay, there's so many things going on. Is there some cause, some organization that I want to get behind? Just the one, because there's so many different things. If we get involved in too many things, we kind of spread ourselves really thin, and then we kind of just burn out. Well, that happens to me. Let me know in the comments if you've done that. You get really enthusiastic and you enroll yourself in a lot of different things and want to make a big difference everywhere, and then you end up burning out. I have done that. So I know it's only one thing that I decide on, and I put a little bit more emphasis on this, a little bit more focus, a little bit more time. However whatever that looks like for me, but that has been really helpful for me. And also talking to other people can sometimes really help in those when it is the helplessness around the global things. And for me, it's the Thriveroo community. If you know, the online community full of people who are also on that healing journey, determined to heal and grow. And just having conversation, we have lots of group calls. There's a small group, so we have so many calls, so they're tiny little groups. But in those calls, we can really have some deeper discussions. And being able to have those more vulnerable conversation can sometimes help us too to shift back into that window of tolerance, or having a bit more of a lighter conversation, or having some fun, or hearing some different perspectives, hearing some different ideas can help as well, and seeing what other people do, and talking about that's really helped me a lot as well. So if you're ever curious, please jump over on my website and check it out. I would love for you to join our community. It's the Thriveroo community. So all the details are on the website there. But these things can really help me too, because groups are group support in that sense is very different than the one-on-one support. I always make sure that I have both in my own life. I work with one-on-one coaches, and I am part of a few groups, because the learning is so different, because you hearing other people's perspective, seeing what other people do, there's some novelty, there's some newness, it sparks some curiosity. And when we have curiosity sparked, that helps us getting back into that window of tolerance there. Yeah, so I know I talked a lot today, and I talked fast, but I just wanted to really share that with you guys, that sometimes, there's no one approach that helps in every single situation. I think that's what I really wanted to highlight. So sometimes we need to be a little bit more flexible and try a little bit of different things, and that was it for today. So thank you. I hope you find that useful, and as always, sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little. See you guys. Bye.